General Keane, thank you so much for your time. Donald Trump, he started by saying he could end this war in Ukraine in a day. He blamed Ukraine for being invaded. But now he's calling Putin absolutely crazy. So what will he actually now do? He says he could walk away from the war, but he can't do that because that would just leave Russia freer to destroy Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating to watch this unfold. I do believe the president should have taken some action, some weeks ago when it was obvious that Putin was stalling and had no interest in going to any kind of ceasefire or peace agreement. And that should have been crippling sanctions ourselves, being the United States and also the Europeans who would participate, and robust military assistance and make certain that Ukraine knows the United States is going to be there along with the Europeans. Once Putin understands that, he knows he can't win. That's a fact. And that would get him, I think, to the negotiating table. Don't know that for sure. He may still try to avoid that at all costs. I do believe that Putin is absolutely a driven man, Andrew, because he did honestly believe that back in February 22, that they could show Russian might to the Ukrainians in Kyiv and the country would just collapse to include its government. That did not happen. I believe his presidency is at stake. He has to succeed in Ukraine. I believe he knows that if he doesn't, he would likely not continue to be president, and he'd likely be killed once he came out of power. So he is a driven man, in my judgment, and that is why he's pulling out all the stops here, not to go to any negotiated settlement unless major concessions that were being made to him that would make Ukraine vulnerable, number one. Or number two, keep stalling and stalling and increase President Trump's frustrations and anxiety so that he backs away. And if he backed away from supporting Ukraine, obviously, that would be a major victory for Putin in achieving what his end is, and that is to topple the government in Ukraine. If the Europeans continue to support him, which I think they would very steadfastly, it would protract the war for a number of years still. But Putin would likely, at the end, have some success in taking down the country.
General, Australia has banked everything for decades now on America protecting us should there be a war in our region. As a consequence, and as a report today has underlined here, we have a very small, undermanned, under-equipped military. Really, it's just a disgrace. But if there is a war with China in our region, how does the US match up to China? Can it win? Can we actually expect them to be able to defend us in a time of war?
Well, I spent almost 2 years on a congressional commission dealing with just that reality, the national defense strategy. And we concluded a couple of things. In the last 4 years, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea coming together presented the most significant and serious threat to the United States' interest and our allies since World War II. We also concluded that based on current military capability, U.S. military capability, and allies in the region, that we would be challenged to win a war against China in the near term because of the erosion of U.S. military capability over a period of well over a decade. We would be challenged to win, and indeed, we could lose. Those are the facts that we put on the table. The Trump administration is committing significant amount of funding, $150 billion, if the reconciliation bill gets passed in a one-time supplemental. It'll be the largest increase in military spending since World War II, if that is done in 1 year. And that would be very significant to solve the fact that we don't have all the missiles we should have. We don't have all the long-range weapon systems, all the air defense systems and others. And we have to move with a sense of urgency to create the kind of deterrence that we need. We're trying to prevent a war from happening. President Xi has told his military leaders, be prepared by 2027, and he has been threatening war every single year as well. We do know that China does have some reservations in fighting the United States in the near term, despite the realities I just gave you. And those are legitimate concerns because it would be catastrophic to them as well in terms of personnel losses, material losses, and certainly the world economy and the U.S. and Chinese economy would be affected, and it would take many years to recover from that. So they understand that there are issues here for them as well. What we have to do is convince them, along with our allies, work closer with our allies, see if we can actually move from bilateral relationships with U.S. and allies to more of a collective defense in the region. Obviously, we're never going to have a Pacific NATO, so to speak, but we can get something closer to that, where we're actually working together militarily on how we would defend against China's attack in the region.
And the way to prevent that, of course, is to make the cost of war for China so immeasurable that they blink, they don't do it. And that requires us, of course, to match the US as well in treating this with that sense of urgency. General Keane, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Yeah, great talking to you, Andrew, as always. Thank you.